The flickering fluorescent lights hummed a low, unsettling song, a constant companion to the oppressive silence that clung to the stacks. My first night shift at the Blackwood Library was supposed to be a straightforward affair, a simple job guarding books. But the moment I stepped through those heavy oak doors, I knew something was profoundly wrong. The air itself felt thick, not with dust, but with an unspoken history, a weight that pressed down on your chest. My name is Arthur Jenkins, and I've worked plenty of odd jobs, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the Blackwood. The advertisement I'd seen online was unusually vague. Night watchman needed, unique environment, strict adherence to protocol essential. The pay, however, was exceptionally good, enough to make me overlook the lack of detail. I'd called the number, a curt, almost robotic voice had answered, and a few days later, I found myself in a dimly lit office, staring across a polished mahogany desk at Mr. Silas Blackwood himself. He was a man carved from shadows, with sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He spoke in a measured, almost hypnotic tone, outlining my duties. "Your primary responsibility, Mr. Jenkins," he'd said, his voice a low rumble, "is to ensure the integrity of the collection. The library is old and it houses unique items. Your vigilance is paramount." He then handed me a thick, laminated sheet of paper. "These are the protocols. Memorize them. Adhere to them without question. Your life and the continued existence of the Blackwood Library as we know it may depend on it." That sheet of paper, a single artifact of unsettling bureaucracy, became my Bible. I still have it, tucked away in a box, a stark reminder of the nights I spent in that place. The rules weren't for the books, not really. They were for something else entirely. Rule 1. The main reading room is to be locked at precisely 10 p.m. No exceptions. I quickly learned this wasn't just a suggestion. The massive iron door, heavy enough to withstand a battering ram, would clang shut with an unnerving finality. One night, I was a minute late, distracted by a strange scratching sound from the lower levels. The door mechanism whined, resisting my efforts, and for a terrifying second, I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. It was as if the library itself was angry, a living, breathing entity that demanded punctuality. I never made that mistake again. Rule 2. Under no circumstances are you to enter the restricted archives, Level B2, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. Level B2 was a place of whispered horrors. Even during the day, a palpable chill emanated from its entrance. A heavy steel door marked with an archaic, almost forgotten symbol. I had to pass it on my rounds, and every time, the air grew colder, the silence deeper. I'd hear faint, almost imperceptible sounds from behind it, a rustling, a soft thud, sometimes what sounded like a shallow, ragged breath. It was always just at the edge of hearing, enough to raise the hairs on my arms, never enough to confirm. My flashlight beam would dance across the old tarnished brass plaque, highlighting the warning in Latin, Hic sunt dracones. Here be dragons. I never dared to disobey this rule. The thought of what might be lurking down there, in the impenetrable darkness of those forbidden hours, was enough to keep me far away. Rule 3. If you hear a distant, mournful wail originating from the upper floors, locate its source immediately. Do not approach. Instead, activate the silence protocol on the nearest wall panel and retreat to the security office. The first time I heard it, I almost dropped my flashlight. It wasn't a human cry, not exactly. It was a sound that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the building, a sound of ancient, profound sorrow. It started as a low moan, slowly building into a piercing, otherworldly lament that echoed through the empty halls. My heart hammered against my ribs. I followed the protocol, fumbling with the unfamiliar panel. A single red button, stark against the gray metal. I pressed it. A low, resonant hum filled the air, a deep vibration that seemed to silence the very atoms around me. The wail ceased abruptly, cut off as if by an invisible hand. I retreated, my legs trembling, to the security office, a small, heavily reinforced room near the main entrance. I stayed there, listening to the oppressive silence, until the sun began to paint streaks of gray across the eastern sky. Mr. Blackwood had never explained what the wail was or what the silence protocol actually did. He just said, "It is a necessary measure." Rule 4. Any book found open or misplaced from its designated shelf after midnight must be returned to its exact location. Do not read the contents. Do not touch the pages with bare skin. Use the provided archival gloves. This was the rule that truly began to unravel my understanding of the Blackwood Library. Books in a library are meant to be read, but here they seem to have a life of their own. I'd find ancient tomes, heavy with dust, lying open on reading tables, pages splayed as if someone had just walked away mid-sentence. Sometimes a single leather-bound volume would be found on the floor, far from its rightful place in the meticulously organized shelves. The archival gloves, thin and white, became an extension of my hand. I'd gingerly pick up the offending book, careful not to let my skin touch the aged paper. The text, when I couldn't help but glimpse it, was always in languages I didn't recognize, filled with strange symbols and intricate, disturbing illustrations. One night, I found a particularly large book open to a page depicting a creature that defied description, a tangle of limbs and eyes, its form shifting and writhing on the parchment. A cold, metallic scent, like old blood, emanated from the page. I quickly closed it, my stomach churning, and returned it to its shelf, my hands shaking. It felt like I was disturbing something ancient, something that preferred to remain undisturbed. Rule 5. If you observe any shadowy figures moving within your peripheral vision, do not directly acknowledge them. Continue your rounds as if nothing is amiss. Maintain a steady pace. Do not stop. Do not speak. This rule was the hardest to follow. The first time it happened, I was on the 3rd floor checking the rare manuscripts section. A fleeting glimpse, a ripple in the darkness at the edge of my sight. A tall, gaunt form, darker than the shadows it inhabited, moving with an impossible grace between the towering shelves. My heart leaped into my throat. Every instinct screamed at me to turn, to confront it, to run. But I remembered Mr. Blackwood's words, his chillingly calm instructions. I kept walking, my pace unwavering, my eyes fixed straight ahead. My skin crawled, the air grew heavy, and I felt an undeniable presence, a cold breath on the back of my neck. It felt like I was being watched, judged. The shadows played tricks on the mind, they say, but this was different. This was deliberate. This was intelligent. I felt its gaze, heavy and ancient, following my every move until I rounded the corner and it was gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent of ozone and something akin to old parchment. These occurrences became more frequent, a constant test of my resolve. I learned to ignore the fleeting darkness, to train my eyes to see only what was directly in front of me, to pretend that the library was truly empty. It was a terrifying game of pretend, a dance with the unseen. Rule 6. The security monitors in the office are for observation only. If an anomaly appears on screen, record the time and location. Do not attempt to investigate. The Blackwood Library had an extensive, antiquated CCTV system. Black and white, grainy footage, but it covered every corridor, every reading room, every stack, except for the restricted archives, of course. One night, I was reviewing the footage from the previous hour, a monotonous replay of empty hallways and silent shelves. Then on camera 7, which covered the main stairwell, I saw it. A distortion, a shimmering in the air, like heat haze, but within the cold stone of the library. It pulsed, grew larger, and then, for a split second, resolved into something that resembled a human figure, tall and impossibly thin, its form indistinct, like a charcoal drawing smudged by a child. It moved with a disjointed, jerky motion, descending the stairs, then vanished as quickly as it appeared. I meticulously recorded the time and location, my hand trembling as I wrote. I wanted to rewind, to watch it again, to confirm what my eyes had seen, but the rule was clear. Observe, record, do not investigate. The temptation was immense, a burning curiosity to understand, but the cold fear of the unknown held me back. I often wondered what the other night watchmen had seen, what anomalies they had recorded. Rule 7. On the last night of each month, a specific ritual must be performed. A small parchment scroll, provided in the security office, is to be placed on the central altar in the main reading room at exactly 3 a.m. Do not read the inscription. Do not deviate from the timing. This was the rule that solidified my understanding that I wasn't just a security guard. I was a participant in something far older, far more mysterious. The altar was a circular stone slab in the center of the main reading room, carved with symbols that seemed to writhe and intertwine. On the last night of my first month, a small, tightly rolled parchment scroll appeared on my desk in the security office. It felt ancient, brittle to the touch. The air in the library that night was particularly heavy, charged with an almost palpable energy. At 2:55 a.m., I walked through the silent library, the scroll clutched in my gloved hand. The silence was absolute, deeper than usual, as if the very air was holding its breath. I placed the scroll precisely in the center of the altar. As my fingers released it, a faint, almost inaudible hum resonated from the stone, a low thrumming that vibrated through the soles of my feet. The air around the scroll shimmered for a moment, a brief, almost imperceptible distortion. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. I retreated, my heart pounding, leaving the scroll to whatever ancient purpose it served. I never saw the scroll again after that night. Each subsequent month, a new one appeared, and each month I performed the ritual, a silent, unwilling participant in a ritual whose purpose I could only guess at. Rule 8. If the emergency lights activate without cause, immediately proceed to the nearest designated safe zone. Do not attempt to reset the power. Do not investigate the cause. Wait for daylight. The emergency lights were a sickly green glow that cast long, distorted shadows, transforming the familiar library into a labyrinth of unsettling shapes. One night, around 2 a.m., the regular lights flickered once, twice, and then died, plunging the library into absolute darkness. A split second later, the emergency lights hummed to life, bathing everything in that eerie green. My heart leaped. I knew this wasn't a power outage. The hum of the building's ancient systems was still present, albeit subdued. I followed the rule, moving quickly but carefully towards the nearest safe zone, a small, windowless storage room on the second floor, reinforced with heavy steel. As I walked, the shadows seemed to deepen, to move with a predatory intent. I heard soft, slithering sounds from the deeper stacks, a faint whisper that seemed to come from all directions at once. The air grew cold, a biting, unnatural chill that seeped into my bones. I reached the safe zone, slammed the heavy door shut, and leaned against it, gasping for breath. I stayed there, huddled in the oppressive green light, listening to the sounds of the library shifting and groaning around me, until the first rays of dawn pierced the high windows, bringing with them the blessed return of the regular lights. The library, in the green emergency light, felt truly alive and truly hostile. Rule 9. Never, under any circumstance, attempt to communicate with any entity you may perceive. Your safety depends on your silence. This rule was the ultimate test of my self-control. There were nights when the presence felt so strong, so overwhelming, that I could almost taste it in the air. Nights when I would hear my name whispered, a soft, sibilant sound that seemed to come from just behind my ear, even though I was alone in an empty corridor. Nights when I would see faces, indistinct and fleeting, in the reflections of the polished floors or in the darkened glass of the display cases. It was a constant struggle, a battle against the primal human urge to understand, to acknowledge, to respond. But Mr. Blackwood's voice, calm and unyielding, echoed in my mind. Your safety depends on your silence. I resisted, clenching my jaw, forcing myself to ignore the whispers, the fleeting images, the overwhelming sense of being watched. I became a master of feigned ignorance, a silent observer in a world that desperately wanted to interact. Rule 10. The most important rule. The Blackwood Library is not a place for the living. You are a temporary guardian. Do not forget your place. This final rule, delivered verbally by Mr. Blackwood during my orientation, was never written down. It was a chilling pronouncement, a stark reminder of my precarious position. It wasn't just a library. It was a threshold, a place where the veil between worlds was thin, and I was merely a gatekeeper, a temporary presence in a domain that belonged to something else entirely. I was a custodian of secrets, a silent observer of the impossible, and my continued existence depended on my strict adherence to the bizarre, terrifying protocols. My time at the Blackwood Library eventually came to an end. After 6 months, Mr. Blackwood, with the same unsettling calm, informed me that my tenure was complete. He thanked me for my diligence and handed me a final, exceptionally generous paycheck. I walked out of those heavy oak doors for the last time, into the blinding light of a normal morning, feeling like a ghost myself. The world outside felt too bright, too loud, too ordinary. The silence of the Blackwood still echoes in my ears, the whispers still prickle at the edge of my hearing. I often wonder what became of the library, what new guardian now walks its silent halls, performing the strange rituals, battling the unseen. I still have the laminated sheet of rules, a tangible piece of a nightmare I lived. They weren't for the books, I know that now. They were for what the books contained, for what the library itself was. They were for the things that lurked in the shadows, waiting for a moment of weakness, a breach of protocol, a chance to cross over. And sometimes, late at night, when the silence presses in, I can almost hear the mournful wail, a distant, unsettling reminder of the Blackwood Library and the impossible things it held within its ancient walls. If you've ever found yourself in a place where the rules seem to defy logic, where the atmosphere itself felt heavy with untold secrets, then you might understand a fraction of what I experienced. These stories, these strange truths, they're out there. You just have to know where to look, and sometimes what to listen for.